In this Wrenching with Rich episode, we're going to be going from a box to the finished product in about an hour. So stay tuned, grab your wrenches, your RC, and let's get wrenching together. Rich here from the RCNetwork.com, and welcome to another episode of Wrenching with Rich. Today we're going to be taking this Turbo Scorpion from Kyosho. We're going to be building it up, going over some of the tricky parts, and show you a few tips and tricks along the way on building a kit and also installing electronics. I did pick up the Kyosho EP starter pack for this build. $99 for this. I think this is right around $250, so for about $350 you can have a functioning, operating Turbo Scorpion from the 1980s, which is pretty cool. So in this video, a little bit different video. This is going to be quite a long video, so grab your wrenches, grab your RC, start wrenching on it, throw this video on, and let's enjoy some time together. What I've done so far is I've kind of opened up the kit and laid everything out. You can see here I have bag A, B, C, D, and E. Got all the plastic parts laid out in color order, and what's really nice about Kyosho kits is they give you things as you need them. So right here you're looking at the thread lock and the grease because you're building the transmission. You have the shock oil because that's when you build the shocks. So they do a really good job of thinking it out. On the far side over here you're seeing the tires, all of the metal parts that came in those kind of blister packs, that vintage style. Got a parts tray here. This is just an Avid parts tray, aluminum, and it's nice when you start opening up bags, you can separate things out in the parts tray. And then of course all my tools I have laid out that I think I need. And what's nice in the owner's manual is they actually give you a key right here, and Kyosho's nice enough to actually give you all the tools, but it actually tells you what size tools you need for the entire kit. So pulled everything, got it all ready. And with that, electronics wise, since it is a kit, no electronics is included. So I did pick up this Kyosho EP starter pack. This thing is pretty cool because it includes a radio, receiver, a servo, a brushed motor. We're going to go vintage on this one. A brushed ESC 45 amp 20 turn motor. Only thing you would have to buy outside of this kit and what you get inside the Scorpion kit is a battery. So, and it also does come with a Dean's plug and also a Dean's plug to a Tamiya adapter, which is pretty nice. So everyone has one of those old Tamiya batteries laying around, or if you happen to have a Dean's LiPo, you can also plug that in too. So pretty nice little item. This is $99, which is pretty cool. So this gets you everything to start on day one. So if you're kind of apprehensive of buying a kit and you don't know what electronics, especially for like the vintage series, this is a great option. So let's get started. So I went ahead and just going over the owner's manual here. I'll be giving tips and tricks throughout this video of kind of what I do, but one thing I like to do is I like to go ahead and read the information. It gives lots of information, especially for newbies, and then also for aged pros that just forget things over time. So nice parts list that they give you here of what to expect with that part to look like, and one-to-one dimensions here as well. So very nice that they're giving that. As we look in here, they give the parts trees, and so it gives you a breakdown. I have everything sorted out by color, which definitely helps me. And then right here we're starting instantly with open bag A and open the plastic bag. So I have the plastic bag opened. Bag A I have in there in the corner. Let's start wrenching. So now I'm just starting to get started on step one, bag A, and just starting to collect parts. So I have the two frame rails, I have the two shock towers. Now I'm going to go ahead and just start grabbing these parts and slicing open all of bag A's items. There we go. So nice aluminum parts in this kit. I mean, you can really see the quality of these things. It's all chamfered, and this is still stamped aluminum, which, this is going to be a slow running vehicle. I'm not going to overpower this thing at all. Should be a fun build. So somewhat of a Servo Saver or something there. I'm not sure what that is, but we'll have to find that out. here soon. So frame rails are very nice. You can kind of see the quality of these. Now what I've noticed on these is there's holes on one side but not on the other on portions of this, so you have to really get the orientation correct once you start building. So they are calling for a couple of plastic parts. I've located them here on this parts tree SC221. We're just going to go ahead and clip these things off. We're not going to worry about the tang too much. I have my curved Dubro cutters right here. Just get up close to the portion where you have to cut. That one actually just popped right off. And then I'm just like this. I like to go ahead and clip off all of the edges. You can kind of see the edge right there. We're going to clip all those off. I have like a little wooden section of my workbench that I just kind of snap it off. We're good to go after that. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want to make this as precise as possible. And that one looks pretty good too. We're going to give a little shave. I have somewhat of a dull X-Acto blade on here, and that's why I can kind of clip it onto my thumb without worrying about cutting myself. So be careful when using X-Acto knives. They can definitely do some damage. So I got first part of the frame rail done here, and you also have to make sure that when you are going from a steel screw into any type of aluminum, you do need to use that thread lock. Although the owner's manual didn't mention it on the particular step I'm working on, definitely grab the included thread lock for this kit. If you don't have included thread lock, definitely pick some up. It's not too expensive to pick up just a huge bottle here. This has lasted me for quite a while here. I actually have another bottle waiting when this one runs out. So, but anyways, make sure you have additional thread lock on hand. It's always good to have that. And when tightening into aluminum, you just want to tighten it down to where it is just hand snug. You don't want to tighten it overly because the Loctite will do its job and make that screw not back out. So just finished the frame rail section, this section up here. Now going to the Servo Saver. I guess I was right on that little barrel item with the spring, but right here we have the servo horn. Double check your servo that you're going to use. There's 3 different sizes of splines in the kit. It does come with a 23, 24, and 25 tooth spline servo horn. Typically 23s are going to be, I believe, JR and Spectrum. 24s are old high-techs, not the newer ones. And then 25s have kind of been the standard now. So you have all Futaba, you have all Savox, and then you have some other specialty ones like ProTech use 25, and then also some of the newer high-techs also use 25. The servo I'm going to be using is from that little kit I showed you. It's a Perfex is what it's called, and it's actually pretty decent, 0.15 seconds, and I think at 60 degrees, and it uses a 25 tooth spline, so we're going to be using that. I just simply test fit it on here. If it's perfect, we'll be ready to go after that. So I'm going to go ahead and start clipping some parts and getting the Servo Saver built. So just built the Servo Saver right here. Slightly difficult because there are 2 different nuts on either side of these ball studs. So you have to tighten it to where there's no screw protruding on the bottom down here. And I did use some Loctite and kind of counter tightened the screws onto the ball stud. So, and then you do have an E-clip up here to kind of merge everything together. So this is a non-adjustable Servo Saver, so pretty good amount of tension on there, but it should help when you land wrong and your servo goes one way and your wheels go another, to not strip out the gears on your servo. So now it's time to go ahead and mount this up to the frame rails. Now that I've completed bag A, you'll notice here on my Avid parts tray there's nothing left over, which is a very good sign. Whenever you have items that are left over, just kind of go back over the step, make sure you didn't miss anything, and definitely read all of these little blurbs that they put in here. They're definitely helpful, and they'll keep you slightly more sane as you get more into the build. So right now it's saying to open up bag B, so I'm going to go ahead and grab all of those parts, cut them open, and disperse them out into my parts tray. So right here bag B is quite a bit, so we're going to go ahead and start opening all of this stuff up. So right here we have, looks like we're going to start building the rear transmission now. So I'm looking at rear kind of output shafts for the wheels. Also dog bones, it looks like right here as well. Very nice, actually. Kyosho does a great job with their parts. I mean, second to none as far as the parts quality. Right here we have it does come with a pinion gear, which is very nice. Usually you don't see kits coming with pinion gears. It looks to be a 48 pitch and quite large, a 31 actually. So a very large pinion overall, and it is a steel pinion, so pretty good heft to it. I'll drop that down. It's like a little motor plate. Another Allen key. They're very clever when it comes to when you need parts at a particular time. So to give you that extra Allen key, I won't need it. I have my MIP tools. Just emptying out all of these different screw bags from bag B. Lots of bags here. I like to keep everything separate because I've noticed in some steps that they'll say to use one thing, and right after that they're saying to use another thing, and it's typically all in that same little bag. So it's nice to keep everything kind of organized as you're building. Little set screws there. We do have fully sealed bearings on both sides, which is nice. They have the black seals. So we're going to keep this thing pretty long running. I mean, there's no open bearings or bushings. That's the last thing we want to see, is bushings in a high quality RC vehicle. So getting all the plastic out of the way, and then lastly we have more screws, ball studs, and everything else. So there's a look. This is going to be bag B, with the exception of some of the plastic parts we're going to be using, and maybe some of the other pieces that came in those clamshell items, like the transmission right here. So that'll be nice. And then we also have a long rod here with some measurements, so this will be also part of bag B. I want to set that as well there. So now it's time to start mounting up lots of stuff. This is going to be a complicated step, so I'm going to go ahead and get to it. Alright, so got the Servo Saver mounted up here with this kind of steel bar. Quite complicated because you had 1, 2, 3 items you had to get in there, and plus you had to align this bar by these little tiny lines. I don't know if you can see it in there, but there's little indicator marks, like kind of like mountain bike handlebars. So went ahead and got all that tightened down. So now it's time to go ahead and sandwich these two pieces back here, keeping in mind the orientation of all of the bends and everything else. Screws going from the other side, and then screwing to this top plate. So I'm going to use some more Loctite and get this thing going. Alright, so I went ahead and got all 4 screws in now. Everything is just barely tight, so I went ahead and left it all loose, because sometimes with doing 4 screws all into metal, there's not going to be a whole lot of wiggle room. So everything's loose. Now it's time to tighten up in a star pattern. There we go. First part of the chassis is done. This thing's solid steel aluminum. Alright, so now it's time to go ahead and start building the gearbox with the rear differential. This thing's pretty nice. Has some heft to it. Has a steel portion, and then of course the outdrives are also steel. And it's already been pre-built, so which is really nice. So you don't have to worry about the technical portion of building the differential. It's all ready to go. Then also pulled the gearbox from the clamshell design little display box that it comes in, and this is already pre-built to a certain degree. So we do have a little idler top shaft gear here, another gear inside of the transmission around the case. Now it's just a matter of installing the rear differential, and we're ready to go after that. So pretty easy. We're going to go ahead and add some bearings here to the rear differential. No need to distinguish the actual sealed side versus a non-sealed side because these are sealed on both sides. Usually if you have a single-sided sealed bearing, you want the sealed side towards any dirt element. So in this case, if you had a single-sided one, you'd want the sealed side going to the outside or where the dirt would accumulate things. So plastic side is somewhat hard to seat in. So I was having a little bit of trouble of actually getting the plastic side to seat the bearing in. And I don't know that the manufacturer would recommend this, but this is what I use. I just grabbed a 7/16 deep socket just from a socket wrench set. It fits right over the outdrive and was able to pound the bearing in with some even pressure. So it was very gentle and it just collapsed straight onto the plastic. Just the tolerances were so tight that it just wouldn't seat on. So, but that's just another way to go about getting those bearings on if they happen to be a little bit stubborn. Just an even pressure instead of trying to, inch it on with your fingers definitely helps out. So now time to go ahead and grease up the main gear here on the differential, and went ahead and opened up the Kyosho grease. This stuff is awesome. Probably one of the best greases out there. I try to use it sparingly, especially on the differential because it's metal to metal, but it doesn't need a whole lot, and plus I like keeping this stuff because it's just great grease. So just adding it little by little here onto the threads, and then we'll mash it onto the transmission. So now we got the that in, and time to put the cover on, I believe, which I believe is true. And just an inside and outside to this, so it actually gets reversed like this. So a little bit odd design. We're going to go ahead and drop this on. There we go. And then finally, there's also a little portion here that this thing gets attached to. So we're going to go ahead and get these things all screwed in and call it a wrap on at least the transmission part. Everything's together now. The plate right there, and this actually got moved up. Didn't realize that until I started bolting it in, realized there was already a screw there. So just part of the way of learning how the kit goes together. And I've never built this this kit before, so this is definitely a learning experience for me. So gonna go ahead and get some parts ready for step 7 now. Gonna start bolting an additional plate now to the transmission, kind of go from there. So this part's actually the rear shock tower now, and this actually just gets bolted straight to the back of the transmission or front of the transmission. I don't know yet. It's probably the front. So we're going to do that, and then also mount the shock standoffs. So these are just regular 12, I think, or 16 millimeter by 3 millimeter screws, kind of like the fronts right here that you see on the front. So these just get standoffed for the shocks. That'll come up here in a later deal. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my Loctite 3x8 and get that plate bolted in. I mean, this kit's really beginning to be just a top quality kit. I mean, everything I've touched, there's very minimal plastic on this kit so far. I know it's going to end up having plastic, but thus far, this thing has just been pretty solid. So it's just really strange to work with so much metal initially. A lot of our kits these days are plastic on top of plastic, and these, for the most part, they work out pretty good. But these old kits, the way they were designed is just, it's remarkable, especially the handling of them. With this one has kind of like almost like a trailing arm front and rear suspension. So pretty cool design, and operates just beautifully. So we'll be able to see that in a running video here soon. Stay tuned for that. Getting the last screw in now of this thing. There we go, and just going around and tightening everything up. Perfect. So standoff is, or the shock tower is done now. And time to do the standoffs. And these are pretty simple, just a matter of adding the screw, adding these lockless nuts. They don't have any type of locking feature. And grab my MIP driver, and they just lock right in. This one as well. There we go. Perfect. That step's all done. Time to grab the motor, the pinion, get this thing all mounted up. Alright, so about to mount the motor now in step 8. This is the G2X 20-turn motor. This is out of that Easy Pack kit, or the EP starter pack from Kyosho. Just your basic, silver can motor. Nothing too special about this, but this is the vintage type of thing to do. I mean, these motors are maybe $10. So very inexpensive motor, and I think it'll do the Turbo Scorpion some justice here. So went ahead and took the cap off of the rear part of the transmission to expose some of the other gears. And you'll see there's a metal gear right here. And then this is the piece I also took out. This is kind of another idler type gear that goes up to the motor pinion. So we do have pretty much all metal gears except for this one right here, kind of like the spare gear, so to speak. And this one will be meshed up to a steel pinion gear. No grease on these two, but we do need to go ahead and grease up this guy here. But I did have to remove this so we can mount the motor up. Little screw right there that you have to be able to get to be able to mount the motor. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So just a couple of 3x8 countersunk screws. You do want to Loctite this. You never want to not Loctite motor screws. It can be horrendous. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the motor in. What's odd is there's no motor mesh at all. I just thought about that. This thing is just either on or off. So we're going to go ahead and grease up the steel portion. Do not grease that plastic spur gear right there. That'll be bad news. Got it all going. Give this thing a quick little spin here. There we go. Everything's happy. Everything's spinning all happy and nice and neat and great. So now we're going to go ahead and add the spur gear, and I think we're going to put this on backwards. Going to go ahead and turn this thing up. You just want to have a good mesh on this. Actually, we will not put it on backwards. We will put it on the correct way. There we go, just like that. And with that, also, you always want to Loctite the set screw on your pinion gear. Crucial. You definitely want this Loctite to stay for a good day before you run your vehicle. How does that look? Nice. Look at all those gears. Beautiful. Only plastic is that guy right there, and that's the important one. Want to make sure that thing stays nice and clean, and God, the motor mesh is perfect. Has just a little bit of a click in there. Probably can't hear that, but that's exactly what you want. Going to go ahead and set this thing back on now and put the little clip on that goes in there. I think I lost the little O-ring that goes on there. There we go. Let me go ahead and set the little pin through again. And we're all set. Time to move on to step number 9. Alright, so step 9, we're going into building the rear roll cage that goes around the motor to kind of protect it. It's all made of plastic, but in the end it gives you that scale look of the old kind of sand rail or dune buggy type of look. So gonna go ahead and get that thing going now. So there's a look at the little tube chassis that goes around, all plastic of course, and this thing now gets bolted to that original chassis plate they were working on earlier, the little twin rail. So this actually gets mounted on kind of like this. So we're going to go ahead and mount this up. A bunch of 3/8 countersunk screws, keeping in mind which ones get Loctite, which ones don't. Looks like these 3 right here will end up getting Loctite, and then the 2 here with the little lock nuts will not. So we're going to do, I guess probably the lock nuts first. Maybe we'll do one into the aluminum first. So I'm going to go ahead and get some Loctite up on the one for the aluminum. Stick it on through. It's kind of a balancing act. And there we go. Got the rear section all done. This one has some heft to it. This is a solid rig right here already. So, all right, going to go on to step number 11. We're going to start on the rear trailing arms now. All right, so I went ahead and got everything kind of bolted up together, and then also installed one of the rear kind of trailing arms here. So got this installed only because I needed to, capture the learning curve of actually assembling this thing. So you can kind of see that there's a slight angle right here of the pivot joint, and then of course the dog bone going in, just all kind of cast aluminum. I mean, the thing is just beautiful the way it operates. So we're going to go ahead and install the driver's side, at least for the US side, on this one now. So it's pretty easy once you get everything kind of ready to assemble, because if you forget to put the dog bone in like I did on this one, you have to disassemble it to get the dog bone back in. There's not really a way to do it. So with that, just make sure you have everything laid out, all your parts available before you do it, because I forgot the dog bone and then had to disassemble things to get it in. So with that, let's go ahead and assemble the other side of the trailing arm. So right here, there's a look at the little ball end that goes in here. Now 8mm is the spread, and you kind of have to be creative as far as getting that 8mm and tightening down this little non-locking nut. So be careful with that. And I did apply some Loctite to that as well, so that's not going to move on me in the future. So now it's a matter of just go ahead and mounting all this up. Got all the parts here, and we're going to go ahead and start assembling this thing. What's so nice so far is, I mean, 90% of what we've assembled now is all like steel, aluminum, or some, variation of high quality parts. So pretty nice overall, and let's get this thing going. Alright, so you can see right here, I went ahead and installed just these 2 kind of pivot blocks, and then installed the actual rod inside of there to make sure everything was even. Now there is a slope to both of them, so you have to make sure that your slope is correct, but now this is kind of locked in, so you have to make sure before you tighten that everything is smooth riding and there's no binding at all on that particular pivot. So let's go ahead and mount up the arm now. So we're going to go ahead and drop in the kind of out drive right here. This just gets put right in there, and then we go ahead and install the 12mm hex. Pretty cool little design there. And of course, the little axle deal with some Loctite. And then before we start to actually assemble everything, grab this dog bone, because I missed that on the first step. go ahead and insert this thing in, insert this in, and then go ahead and drive that pin right on through, and it should be a perfect fit. There we go. Now it's just a matter of just adding the little set pins on top here so that this rod doesn't move around, and we're all done with this step. Alright, so that's a wrap on this portion. We got the rear trailing arms all done. They're beautiful. I mean, just so free-flowing, unlike any type of plastic vehicle out there. So very nice. And now it's time to build shocks, but I'm going to postpone that because we're going to get the front end of this done. We'll build shocks a little bit later in this episode. Alright, so I went ahead and skipped ahead just a little bit. I wanted to get familiar with how to set up the whole front assembly here. Now, a couple things that I also put on was this kind of steel roll bar right here. It might be aluminum, but just 2 bolts from the underside. And then the front little skid right here, also 2 bolts from the underside. That's pretty easy stuff. Now what gets complicated is all of this stuff right here. This is some serious working engineering right here. So we have the steering link that goes on the back side. We have like a front link up here on the top. And then we do have a camber link that, if you look at the instructions, it's supposed to be at the same angle as the kick up of these chassis rails. So kind of eyeball that for right now, and we're looking pretty good. So right here, a look at the suspension travel. And like I said, we are going to skip building the shocks until later on in this episode, and that'll be easy to mount on from the shock standoff down here to this little ball end here on the bottom side. So same thing with the rear stock mount right there, and then goes right out here to the end of the trailing arm. So should be an easy build, but let's go ahead and get this section all put together. I may speed this up because it's quite lengthy, building the ends and getting everything set up. So may stop for station identification throughout and kind of mention a few tips and tricks on how I build rod ends and that type of thing. So I've got all my parts laid out. And it is quite complicated once you start getting into which way goes which way and things that get greased and everything else. So it did